All right, if there wasn't enough to deal with tonight, how about a hurricane? Hurricane Raphael, and again, the impacts to us, if at all, are going to be minimal. Now, it has gained a little bit of strength as of the 9 o'clock advisory with winds of 80 miles an hour. The expectation is that it could become a Category 2, kind of right behind our banner here, before moving over western Cuba, then re-strengthening to a 2 in the Gulf of Mexico. That would occur late Wednesday into Thursday, going into early Friday, when we'll start to see the weakening. Now, what we did see is another little shift farther to the west again, because it doesn't really matter at this point how much longer it stays over Gulf waters, because in fact that would work to our advantage. The longer it stays out over water, the more impact from very dry air, which is going to help to rip the storm apart. And then once it begins that northerly jog, it'll be drawn northward at some point, possibly over the weekend, and eventually probably dissipating over the Gulf waters before ever making landfall as an organized or named system. Could still be a depression, maybe, but that is still very questionable because the conditions in the Gulf are very hostile. So moving over western Cuba as a Cat 2, weakening briefly and then kind of getting a little bit of strength back as it moves west. This is overlapped with the Euro just to show you what the structure of the storm may look like as it is moving northward. Note, we don't have those tight isobars any longer. The winds are starting to weaken and the rainfall is really starting to get shifted away from that center. The soonest I think we would see any real impacts, if at all, would be Sunday going into Monday, and really that'll be dependent upon exactly where this little center gets drawn northward and exactly where the rainfall is. By the time it is moving toward the coast, it is no longer going to look like a tropical system. The dry air and already in place strong wind shear will help to rip it apart. Have had a few little light sprinkles across the area, mainly this evening, and through the night we've seen most of those coming to an end, and we're looking at a fairly dry day tomorrow. Still very warm and very humid. Dew points in the 70s. Humidity right now is at 90%. In the 70s outside with dew points about the same, so we're not going to cool down much more through the overnight. Winds have settled. Still enough of a breeze though, and with high tide approaching early tomorrow morning, could still see some minor coastal flooding, but as we pass high tide and the wind settling will no longer be an issue throughout the day tomorrow. We remain warm and humid right through Friday. If we're going to start to see some impacts, and they're going to be minimal, may start to see a little bit more of a breeze by Saturday and Sunday, and that may be about all the rain we can squeeze out of this system, 30 to 40% Sunday and Monday for Veterans Day. There are indications later next week we finally see a return to fall-like temperatures.